This is Jamie Dyer welcoming you to another edition of the Quo-Cast. I'm joined by Ian Hill from State of Quo and also off your own back as well, which we shall talk about in just a moment. Now, this year is State of Quo's last year. Why?
There's lots of reasons. The first thing I must say, because I think a lot of people have misunderstood my views on the band coming to an end. I don't want to stop. I'd love to carry on. I just don't think that I can. Health is becoming an issue. It's getting harder and harder as we all get older, especially with the longer trips. We had a gig down south in Shepton Mallet recently that took 6 hours to get there because it was on a Friday and we're hitting traffic, and we made the decision to come back same night as opposed to staying over anywhere, and it was another 5-hour drive back home. You're getting home at 4:30 in the morning, exhausted, and it takes a couple of days to recover. But as I say, for me personally, the biggest issue, apart from my eyesight, which is shot to bits, and I really struggle to see what I'm doing on stage, which is a great excuse for bum notes. But it's not ideal, and I don't really want to start wearing glasses on stage because I'd just drop them and smash them and lose them. But the main issue for me personally is that I've suffered for many years with shoulder pain and neck pain. But in recent years, say in the past 4 or 5 years, it's got worse and worse. And it's due to having a couple of damaged vertebrae right at the top of my spine. And it's putting undue pressure on my nervous system. And I get horrendous pains down my arm and in my neck. It varies. It'll never go away. They can't do anything about it. And obviously leaping around like an idiot for an hour and a half with a guitar around my neck, thinking I'm still 25, doesn't help. So for me personally, the main reason is probably just health and just being, it's getting harder and harder to do. I can't speak for the others. We had a discussion about it a year or so ago because I originally wanted to stop in 2020 at McVention because it would have been perfect for me. It would have sort of been a perfect circle because the first official gig that I did with the band was in Glasgow. So it would have been ideal. And for me personally, it was the perfect place to finish it, a Quo convention in Glasgow in front of an audience from all over Europe. It would have been amazing, but it wasn't to be, obviously, because of COVID. So we've kind of ummed and ahed over the past year or so, and we were originally going to stop last year. But Paul contacted the organisers of the festivals that we've been doing on a regular basis for, 10 years or so, Festwich, Rockpressed, Rockstock. There's the WV1 in Wolverhampton. They do 5 or 6 altogether. And for whatever reason, we didn't get a slot at any of them last year, which is for the first time in nearly 10 years. We've usually got at least 1 or 2 each summer. But Paul contacted them and explained that we were looking at stopping and could we possibly be squeezed onto the bill one last time. But they explained that was going to be difficult to do. But then they said, if you hang fire until next year, i.e. 2023, we'll put you on the bill at all 5 of our festivals. So we said, yes, please. So we decided to carry on for this year. And then we decided that we'd choose probably our favourite venues to play, just a handful, ones where we've always had a good time. We know we're going to have a great night. And that's pretty much what we've done this year. And so it comes to a close. We've got Yardbirds in Grimsby early next month, and then 2 gigs in Ireland, and then that's it for this year. But as we've said all along, we will be playing 1 final gig early next year, which we're going to tell everybody about very soon.
And in the run of gigs this year, obviously, you got the chance to play at what is, at the moment, the last ever McVention. What was that like for State of Quo?
Our set was great. We had to cut it short somewhat. It's one of those things with an event like this where you've got several bands appearing over several nights, all playing songs by the same band. From our point of view, of maybe not the band's point of view, but for me personally, I never want to repeat any songs that any of the other bands has already played because it's not fair on the punters. And you also get that element of, oh, whose version was better, from certain quarters, and I'm just not interested in any of that. I'd rather we go out and play a set of songs that nobody else has played. So what I always tend to do, and what we've done in the past with things like McVention and Mindhead and what have you, is get a copy of all the other band's set lists, and we try to put a set together that doesn't include anything that anybody else has played. And we had a set list that nobody else was playing. Everybody had their list of songs, and we all saw each other's set list, so we all knew everybody else was playing. And then on the Friday night, there was a couple of songs that were in our set list that a couple of the other bands played that weren't originally in their set lists. So we had to drop them. Well, we didn't have to, but we elected to drop them so that we didn't repeat them. I think we ran short of time towards the end of the set because we were going to finish with Roadhouse Blues, but I don't think there was time for us to do it justice. So we cut the set short. The other issue as well, which is a shame, is that our drummer Dave wasn't able to do the event. He's had a family bereavement, so we've just left him to be with his family and give him some space and a bit of privacy. But the actual set went down in a storm. It was great. The crowd were fantastic, not just for us, but for all the bands. And I really enjoyed playing. We had McVention organizer Jay Fitzpatrick on drums with us, and I always enjoy playing with Jay because he's got so much energy. And we did a few songs that we've not played in a long time, like Railroad, Little Lady most of the time. And it felt great to play songs that we'd not done for a while. So yeah, for the band's point of view, it was a great night.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but did you not also play 4,500 times?
We did, yeah. Jay insisted that we did. He does that every time we've played McVention. He insists that we play 4,500 times, which is nice. And he did a marvelous job of it without any rehearsal.
The bits of video I saw out there looked incredible. Also, at McVention, you got the chance to, in some ways, premiere, although it's 12 years too late, I guess, Keep On Rockin On live in front of a Quo audience. What inspired you to do that? Like, what was the process behind that?
Being bullied mercilessly for 10 years by Jay. He badgered me until I finally gave in. Every excuse I could think of to not do it, he had an answer for. He even, at one stage said, "Look, I'll provide the band. You just do the songs." And my assumption was that it would be his band, Heavy Traffic. It wasn't. It was Jay on guitar, Jay and myself on guitar, obviously. Jack, who is Heavy Traffic's rhythm guitarist, on bass. And Jay's friend, Aidan Kelly, on drums, who did an absolutely brilliant job. And then on keyboards, my old friend from the days when I used to work for Roland UK, Dean Clark, or Dino, as the audience christened him, which is quite funny.
You mentioned, obviously, with State of Quo, having Jay on drums and not having rehearsed with him. Did you have any rehearsal time for the Keep On Rockin' On set?
Yes. But unfortunately not the whole band. Where Dean was concerned, we literally sat in this room I'm sitting in now, in my little studio at home, and just played through the song. We played the CD and we made some Dean made some notes on key changes and what have you. We decided to strip it down really bare and just limit it to a bit of piano here, a bit of organ there, nothing else. And he played through the songs, went home, practiced them for a couple of weeks, and the first time he actually played them together with the rest of the band was on stage on that night, and he did it again. He did a brilliant job. It was fantastic. With Jay, Jack, and Aidan, we got together a couple of months ago and just jammed the songs to see what might work and what might not. That was fun. Then we had a proper rehearsal, as the four of us, a place in Carlisle, because obviously they're all further up north and I'm down here in sunny Greater Manchester. So we met up there. That went well. And at that point, I was probably 50-50 as to whether I still wanted to do it or not. And that afternoon, some of it clicked into place and I thought, yeah, this is going to be great. And these guys are really up for it. Their enthusiasm to do it was fabulous. It was infectious. And then we had one final rehearsal, the four of us. It was either a week or two weeks before McVention, up in Dumfries, a really nice little studio and we tried to sort of work on details of stuff, endings, because obviously some of the songs on the CD fade out, so we had to make sure we all got the endings right and stuff like that. And then, as I say, the first time the five of us played together was actually on stage at McVention, and it wasn't perfect. I kept forgetting words, which I knew I'd do. I was cursing myself. Biggest issue was that there was some horrendous sound problems, which surprised me, because the sound on the Saturday night when we were on stage, State of Quo, the sound on stage was superb. The engineer seemed to be having some nasty technical issues that he was struggling to solve, while we were playing on the Sunday night. So that kind of took the edge off it a little bit. But I'll never forget the enthusiasm of the crowd and the feedback from the crowd. It was nice, and people were singing along, and it was a surreal experience, because I was hearing these songs being played by a live band, and nobody, not even me, has heard them played by a live band, because they've never been played by a live band before. So it was thoroughly enjoyable experience. And like I say, having a bunch of, apart from Dean, who's not quite as young as the others, having a bunch of young guys full of enthusiasm and energy playing them was just brilliant.
From what I've seen, it looked phenomenal, and the crowd as well. I mean, this album has been out there for 12 years, so it's kind of had time to bed in. Were you selling copies of it afterwards? Did you sell any copies?
Yeah, I had some with me. Not masses, but enough to cover some fuel and other expenses. Not that we had many expenses, but I can't remember. It wasn't a ridiculous amount. It was maybe a dozen, something like that. But I wasn't expecting to sell hundreds, simply because I knew that the majority of the people that were there that would be interested in it and were there wanting to see the set would probably already have it anyway. So, which is nice, because it meant they knew the songs. It was, again, surreal, but really nice to see people singing along to these songs, that have only ever been performed by me in this very room here.
Well, yes, from memory, you play majority of the instruments. I think your wife has a turn on the piano on a couple of tracks, and then Dave from State of Quo kind of does a few fills here and there. So it must have been a very surreal thing, like you say.
It was, yeah, because Alison, I remember, back in the mists of time now, as you say, it's 12 years ago, when I was working on Spin the Wheel, and I was trying to, effectively, I was trying to recreate the vibe of Break the Rules in the middle of it, even though the song itself is kind of an homage to Spinning Wheel Blues, hence the title and hence the subject matter being about gambling. It's no secret. It's blatant. It's obvious. But the middle section kind of morphed into a spoof. Not a spoof. I don't like to say spoof. A pastiche, even though I don't even like the word pastiche.
It's an homage, isn't it?
It's an homage, yeah. It's a bit of a pretentious word, but it fits. It's an homage to Break the Rules, because it's got the guitar solo and then it goes into piano solo, and then I thought, well, it's got a harmonica solo at the end of it. And I remember when I was working on it, Alison came in probably to bring me a cup of tea or something, I don't know. And I said, I'm trying to get this like honky tonk piano solo thing, and I can play keyboards. I'm not certainly no pianist, but I was finding my way around what I wanted to do. And she just said, "Oh, when I was learning to play keyboards, because she's a keyboard player, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the guy that used to teach her, but she said, let's say for argument's sake, his name was Frank. She said, "Oh, Frank taught me always to do this," and she played this little line, and it was just this little rock and roll thing. And I said, "Right, I'm having that." So I recorded it, captured it, and then it was down to Dean for McVention to learn, well, not learn it, but reproduce that as near as possible. And he played it note for note. It was fabulous.
Wow. I mean, having played the album live, have you any ambitions to do it again? I mean, I know you say you've obviously got some health queries.
I certainly wouldn't be against it now that I've done it. Now that I know it is doable. I mean, probably until earlier this year when I thought, because the way I approach things, I listen to it and I think, right, well, how am I going to reproduce that, and how are we going to do that? And I thought, well, you don't need to. It's a live version. It doesn't need all the bells and whistles and things that most people probably don't even notice are there. I decided to strip it back and just, make it pretty basic and doable live. So now that I know it is doable, I'd certainly look at doing it again. If for no other reason that I'm currently working on a follow-up to it, cunningly titled "Can't Stop Rockin' On." So there would be more material to choose from. In fact, we only played 9 songs of the 11 that are on Keep On Rockin' On. And we also played one song that will be on the follow-up called Lonely No More, which ironically is a very, very old song from 1981 that I wrote when Dave and I had a band together called Rhino. And we used to play that live back then. So that was nice because, again, it was the first time that song had been performed live by any band for 40 years. So it was really spooky.
I mean, I'm sure many people are looking forward to the follow-up. I mean, how finished is it right now? Are you nearly there, or a little bit more time?
I'm not as nearly there as I thought I was. Funnily enough, I sat down last night and just listened through what I've got through so far, and there is quite a lot of work still to be done. I did originally want to have it done, finished, and available for McVention, but it was a combination of running out of time and expense. So time and money were against me, really. Finding time to work on stuff is difficult. I don't get a lot of time during the week in evenings. Weekend is the only feasible time I can do it. But obviously there are other things that need doing. There's washing needs doing, the shopping needs doing, and can't leave that all to the wife. So it's just finding the time to get it done. What I need is another lockdown. Because the other thing that I did year before last, the instrumental thing that some people might be aware of, Eric's Journey, which is like a prog rock instrumental thing. The only reason I was able to do that and complete it was the fact that I was confined to home for 3 months. And, if there was some way I could be confined to home for a couple of months and still get paid, I'd be able to get this other one out. But it's coming. I'll get there.
Well, I look forward to hearing it, and I'm sure many others are as well. Thank you so much for giving up your time to talk to me, Ian, and I do wish you all the best with future projects.
Well, as I say, I'm working on. I've got other things that I want to do. I mean, I won't say it's a factor in wanting to stop with the band, but I suppose in terms of what you're going to do after, we've been asked it a lot. What you're going to do when the band finishes, and my answer to that is record as much music as I possibly can while I still can. I think Brian plans to carry on with another band of some description. Dave, as I say at the moment, the last thing on Dave's mind is going to be anything to do with bands because he's, as I mentioned, he's had a family bereavement. So I think Paul's hinted that he's almost having second thoughts about stopping. I must admit, we have the requests from people for us not to stop have been quite overwhelming. But from I can only speak from my point of view. It's not that I want to stop. I think I need to stop. And then somebody said, well, why don't you just do the occasional gig here and there, which I suppose we could. But again, with me, I won't say it's all or nothing, but when you've got gigs, I mean, we've been fairly quiet this year, but in years when, say, we've had 2 or 3 gigs a month, which I know by professional standards is nothing, but from a band in our position, that's a lot of gigs. And you do one, you got a week or so to look forward to the next one, and you do that one. I think if it was 1 gig a month or something like that, it'd be too much of a gap in between to keep the momentum up. You know what I mean? We'd need to rehearse more, and it's all. I think the time has to come when you say enough's enough. We've had a great time, or I've had a great time, and I'll quite honestly say publicly here and now, if the band wanted to continue without me, get a new guitar player, I'm absolutely fine with that. Good luck to them if they do. It is a shame, that a band that Paul formed 20, what is it? Can't do the maths, 25, 26 something years ago, maybe even more. and I was kind of involved at an early stage. So, you know, and obviously Dave was, we've been playing together for years before he joined the band. So I've always kind of been not involved, but followed the band's progress. So I'm aware of what they did and what have you before I actually got involved in the band. And I've been with the band 14 years now.
Wow.
So it's a long time, a lot of memories, a lot of great gigs, met some wonderful people along the way, played some venues and events that I never dreamed I would have played otherwise. So it's been great. I'll miss it. We all will, I think. We've got, as I say, we've got one final gig to look forward to, and we'll be announcing details of that pretty soon. That's going to be a good night. But for me, I think once we do stop, it's an opportunity for me to spend as much time as I can recording, because not only have I got the Can't Stop Rocking thing that I want to do, I've been working on songs by my old band Red Sky.
Yeah,
that was originally going to be the follow-up to Keep On Rocking On, which I made a start on not long after I finished Keep On Rocking On, but that kind of fell by the wayside. I want to get that finished. I've got loads of other songs that I want to do, so that'll be my main focus. When we do the final gig, it'll be right. Let's get some work done and get some recordings done.
Well, I look forward to hearing all of those things, as I'm sure everybody else is, because your music through Keep On Rocking On and State of Quo has obviously been a huge part of the Quo community for many years. So thank you for that on behalf of the community. And also, Ian, thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
No problem. It's been my pleasure.